Peekaboo. Hey, y'all. It's the Cryptid Huntress. What's going on, y'all? Welcome into a glitch in the matrix today. I always get just a little bit glitchy. It's the way I roll. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. I wanted to thank everybody who joined us last night. I was over there on Super Soldier Talk with James Rink and Jimmy Payne. And I'm going to be referring to some of the things that Jimmy and I and James were talking about last night today on this show. It was so fantastic. And if you guys missed that, go back. Well, you can't go back and watch it on YouTube. We got shut down actually last night. So that show did get shut down and deleted off YouTube, but it'll be on Rumble today sometime if it's not already up there. So you guys go check that out on Rumble. It was about Harry and the Hendersons and the true story behind it. Okay. So y'all got to check that out. It was so mind blowing. But anyways, thank you guys so much again for being here. I want to thank all my mods and for all the people in the chat today. It blows me away to see everybody in here. We are going to have a really interesting discussion today. I do have our good friend, Dr. Dennis Carroll, back for a wonderful discussion on reptilians. We're going to be going over different ways to identify reptilians living among us. Now, I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers, y'all. Okay, I'm not trying to ruffle feathers. I'm not trying to offend anyone. Okay, but I do believe we have reptilians walking among us. I've even had people on our show here that claim to be reptilians. Okay, and so let's go get into identifying how to tell who's who, what's what, to the best of our knowledge. And we're going to actually be exploring the connections to the Mayans and reptilians and how to distinguish Mayan reptilians as well. I got some pretty good advice from Mr. Jimmy Payne last night on all this. So we're going to talk about that. And also we're going to talk about how to protect humans from reptilians, from the bad ones, because there are some bad ones out there from what I've been told. Okay. What I've been warned about. And are cryptids being used to protect humans against some of the reptilians, the bad ones? I think so. So you guys buckle up. This is going to be a rabbit portal, not just a hole. We're going to be diving down the rabbit portal today on this one. So please have an open mind, y'all, and get ready, because this is going to be a good one. It's going to be a really good one. So if you guys would like to follow along with, like my shows and everything like that, if you guys want to go to the archives, please go over to my website. If you want to find out stuff about the Cryptid Huntress, that's where you find my bio and the links to my social media. Everything is there at thecryptidhuntress.com. So also, I do have a Patreon. It's the Cryptid Huntress if you guys would like to support my work. And I have a shop over on Etsy. I believe the shop's on sale. It's always on sale. I'm trying to always put it on sale for y'all. It's War Woman Goods. Okay, so thank you guys so much for all of your support. Also, before I bring Dennis up, our good friend Dennis has a wonderful YouTube channel and a Patreon. It's called Hunting the Shadows. So y'all be sure to subscribe over there as well. I know my mods will be putting all these links in the chat today, so you guys they will not pass y'all by if you guys want to click on any of those links. Okay, well, let's get into our show today, because I can't wait to talk about reptilians. We're taking a whole new angle on this too. Okay, this is how to identify reptilians. It says this is my intro. Okay, so we are going to be examining how to identify reptilian humanoids. And yes, I will get a Wikipedia warning on this video. I always do. Who walk among the human population and the connection to the Mesoamericans and cultures across the world. Do Bigfoots and werewolves protect humans from reptilians? I believe they do. We're going there today. We're going to talk about it. And to help me do that, we do have Dr. Dennis Carroll here. He has decades of experience in the paranormal, the supernatural, the occult, UFOs, cryptids, and you name it, everything else. He is a man of all trades. And please help me welcome to the show our good friend, Dr. Dennis Carroll.
Good afternoon.
Well, hey there. Thank you for being here today. I'm excited to talk about reptilians with you once again.
It's one of my favorite subjects, definitely, and it is a fascinating subject, absolutely. And I think, Jessica, the reptilians have been with mankind since our very beginning, and will probably be with us definitely to the end, if ever shows up. Um, it is a fascinating thing to think about that these things live concurrently with us in so many different ways. And another aspect of this, and I shook hands with a reptilian one time. I'm going to tell about that in a little bit. But anyway, the interesting thing about this too is the animosity that may exist between certain cryptids in these categories. But if you look at some of the most, I was calling the most evil type of cryptids that you want to really look at, and that even goes beyond werewolves, and that is definitely the reptilian.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. When I was doing some pretty thorough research on this topic, on how to identify reptilians that walk among us. Now, these are only suggestions, okay? They're not set in stone, not complete fact. This is just opinions and from experience. Okay, people with experience. We hear about politicians being reptilian shapeshifters. We hear about actors being reptilian shapeshifters. I was reading through the list, and Dennis, I'm worried that I might have been pretty close to one of these. Or I'm not saying I'm worried because they're nice people too, but I'm saying I'm actually kind of perplexed as to several people that I've known throughout my life pretty much check every box on these lists. So could they have been reptilians?
Everything that appears nice and friendly is not always nice and friendly, to be truthful about it. And so much in our existence, so much in our universe, Jessica, is not what it appears to be, and it is very deceitful, very deceiving that way. We have to be very careful what we're dealing with, and I've talked about this before about letting things touch you, letting things in your personal space, letting things, certain people and things into your life. You have to be very careful about this stuff because you never know what you're truly dealing with. And when it comes to shapeshifters, and I believe, and I've studied shapeshifters for many, many years now, and I've come to the conclusion that I think it is not. I'm not gonna say it's easy peasy like putting on a pair of socks, okay? But I think it is very difficult thing to acquire or to accomplish sometimes, especially to maintain that illusion or that reality, whatever you want to call it, that they're doing. I think it slips every now and then.
It does. Well, and plus, when enough people wake up to the idea or to the fact that there are people walking among us that are not what we would consider to be human, okay, and that is from the very beginning of me going public with my Bigfoot research. I've always questioned, what does it mean to be human? What are humans? Who are the humans? Who's a real human and who's a generic, or who's I don't know, who's a clone. Or clones humans. It is a really vast topic at this point. Okay. And with a lot of shape-shifting illusion magic as well. When enough people are aware of it, though, it probably becomes a lot harder to mask it, so to speak. And then we who are awake become suspicious of everybody. Or at least I do.
Absolutely. I've said that so many times, and bears repeating. I've always said if I repeat myself, maybe you need to hear it twice. Okay, but anyway, the thing is, everything you see out there walking around may look human, but it may not necessarily be human. It may be something else. And here's the other thing about being human. Okay, humans definitely have what? A soul. But I have to wonder about some of these other things, what type of a soul or spirit these things may have. And some of them are definitely very malevolent. We've even heard accounts of Bigfoot and Dogman and werewolves being somewhat very malevolent in that respect. That doesn't mean every single one of them are that way. Now, you can't paint all of this with a broad brush. It's never a good idea to paint anything with a broad brush, folks. Okay, definitely. And you can't say everything out there walking around is evil, but we remember the evil things that we encounter much better than the things that are not evil. And I think that's just human nature as well. But we've got to understand human beings have a soul. But we have to wonder about some of these other things. If they have a spirit, it's not on the same level as empathetic or as relative as the human spirit would be. You're dealing with something completely different. And if these things can shapeshift, and I've seen without a doubt, I've actually seen this with my own eyes. I mean, I can say this stuff is real because I have seen it. It's one thing to say something. It's one thing to say I believe, but it's another thing to say I know.
That's right. That's right. As you're saying that, I've always been told that extraterrestrials are really intrigued by humans like us because we are empathetic and we love so much. And that stuff, those are traits and characteristics that they don't necessarily have. And so to examine us and to watch us and to keep an eye on us and study us is one of their things that they do because they're so perplexed by our empathy that we have towards one another. And speaking of empathy and love, thank you so much, Andrew, for that super sticker. I appreciate your support so much. It really means the world to me. So thank you. But that is a trait that they are perplexed by in humans, and that's something that I don't know. I think they take advantage of actually.
That's another thing I can say as a demonologist, without a doubt. That is what demons are so interested in this for. I think they can feel, they can, use our emotions. They can get the feelings from us as being humans. They can experience humanity, although they never walked this earth as true human beings. That's why they like us so much. And I think other things are very interested in us for that as well. I think we are really special in that way, that we have the capacity to love. We have that empathetic thing. We have that sympathetic thing going with us that they don't have. And if you were to say this about a reptilian, not only are they cold-blooded in their attitude, but I think spiritually as well, not just physically.
Oh yes, for sure. And this is interesting because there are a couple people in the chat who are mentioning that they have actually seen a person that they were up close and personal, shapeshift into a reptilian form. And Cosmic Joe Chronicles, hey, thank you for being here. He says, one of my dermatologist's faces turned reptilian for a split second before. And I think some of us have seen some things that are very jarring and awkward like that in people. I personally have seen a person's eyes turn completely black. I've actually encountered a person with black eyes, but I actually watched someone's eyes turn black before. Now, is that reptilian? I don't think so. I think it was like a demonic type of experience that person was having. However, I've mentioned this before too. I'm not saying people with slit pupils are all reptilian, but I have seen a woman with split pupils before who had them all the time. They didn't just turn that way, but she was a chef or a cook at a local country food restaurant down here in the South. And yeah, it was different.
I believe that without doubt, that the windows truly are the eyes. Those eyes are the windows to the soul, definitely, without a doubt. I have seen things. I have seen eye change in certain circumstances like that. I've actually seen, the eyes go almost completely black because that was the darkness that was inside of that person showing up in the eyes. Absolutely, without a doubt. And I'm kind of like, unlike most men, I'm not staring at a woman's chest. I like to look her in the eyes, okay? And that tells me a lot about somebody.
Does.
I like to make eye contact. But listen, there is another dangerous aspect of this that we have to understand. You have to, when you do make eye contact, you are making contact here, okay? And you got to understand that and be very careful with that. I'm not saying every eye that you look into, that's even the red eyes, are all evil. And I have seen evil appear with yellow eyes. I have seen appear with white eyes. It's not stuck on one color here, folks, okay? But you see something changing in the eye like that, that is a red flag for you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it's not just the eyes, you're gonna feel the energy coming off that person too. That being. I'm not even gonna say it's a person. Whatever it is you're looking at. There's something to it. And so Abbott's asking, is blue blood reptilian? I you know what? I used to not know what blue blood really meant other than, old money, like old money this way of,
Mhm.
people that have like dynasties basically
Whole
of, rich
bloodline.
families.
Yeah.
Now I believe it might be. What do you
Well,
think, Dennis?
when I shook hands with that guy, okay, and it was a meeting, and this was the furthest thing from my mind. Anything like this happening, okay? I'm gonna tell you this right quick, short story. I met this guy. He worked for Raytheon. I know you're familiar with that company. And I met this guy, and I just shook hands. You know how men do. We shook hands, and I was shaking hands with him, and I felt something. I'm gonna say this. I felt sort of I'm not gonna say vibration, but sort of a funky feeling off of this. Okay, and I looked down just for I glanced down for a moment, and I'm shaking hands not with a human hand, but it was, and I can only describe it as very scaly looking, and it wasn't a bright green; it was a dark green, like a almost blackish looking green, with long nails, and they weren't fingernails; they were claws. And I could feel this. I could feel the dryness of this. And I'm looked back up, and the guy's looking at me like with a very startled look, like you saw that. Oh, you could see
Oh,
that, And he
oh
broke
really?
contact very quickly and left. And I'm standing there going, what did I see? I mean, it was so quick and so fast. And that was the only thing I could ever explain that I shook hands with the reptilian for a moment there. And I could
Oh,
feel that there was a different kind of a vibration to that, a different feeling. I'm not going to say it was like static electricity. It wasn't that profound, but it was still something I picked up on.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I know somebody that I used to hang out with quite a bit, and there was just something off about this person's energy, and and I knew from the minute that I met this person that this person, I'm not going to say who or what or anything. You'll never get it out of me, but I knew they were a reptilian. I just something in my body said that, and I got to, you know what? This is really odd. This is really crazy, and please don't come at me, anybody. Okay, but I've had people on my shows that claim to be reptilians. Okay, and I'm getting sweaty because I'm about to say this out loud. Um, I have to say it is. I've seen a pattern of anytime I talk about reptilians. I keep saying that word over and over again. Anytime I talk about them, I have people that kind of come at me and they get mad, and they want to like argue with me about what I say. And I'm just out here. I'm not stating any facts, y'all. I don't know anything. I'm just examining stuff. We're just kind of talking about it. I'm not stating any of this as fact. This is for entertainment purposes only. I always say that. But I have people that come at me, and it's always over this topic.
That
Okay, it's over this
that does
topic.
not surprise me in the
I
least,
feel like they
Jessica.
don't like me or something.
That doesn't
Okay,
surprise me.
yeah,
These things are
I'm
trying
not
to
liked.
manipulate our reality, okay?
Yeah,
These things are trying
yes,
to manipulate us. They're trying to manipulate our reality. They're going to come at us in different ways. I'm surprised we haven't had any technical interference yet. Seems like every time you talk about reptilians, you run into that too. You have technical interference. You have interference
yes.
from people. You have all this. They are trying, I think, to manipulate us to that extent.
Well,
We
and
have to
then
be
if you
careful.
think about the hierarchy of, we were talking about blue bloods, and if you think about the hierarchy, it's said that a lot of our politicians and people in power, Hollywood, even a lot of people who are influencers, let's just say influencers, are, and that's on a mass scale. Okay, mass populations are of reptilian descent of some sort. Okay, and that it is what it is. It is what it is. But some say that they've seen actors and actresses shapeshift into gigantic lizards, lizard men, lizard people. I mean, you have one of the most famous lizard men in South Carolina where you live, Dennis, the Scape Swamp lizard man. And so there's modern day sightings in the 3D, and then there's also these holographic types, or maybe it's just like screen memory or screen holograms. I don't know how it works. Okay. But maybe we're nonetheless, I feel like we're being deceived on, who's who and what's what and where these things are coming from.
Here's
But
something else we need to consider too, that some of these older bloodlines definitely have a reptilian influence in them. And I think they did that for on purpose. I think they have actually melded with human bloodlines for that purpose alone. And some of these people may have inherited tendencies for this kind of stuff, without a doubt, because they've got reptilian blood in their DNA.
oh, very interesting. Well, I had I wanted to go over some of the things that that Jimmy told me last night. Jimmy Payne, y'all. Okay, and I love Jimmy. I'm just going to state it publicly, y'all. He is a national treasure. Okay, I know some people are kind of like, whoa, it's kind of out there, the things he talks about. I think he's fantastic. Okay, if y'all know who Jimmy is, he's a good friend of mine. He's a good friend of James Rinks, and he's on Super Soldier Talk with James quite a bit. He's been on our show talking about vampires before over here a couple of years ago, and man, he's just full of knowledge. And he says that he was at one point a Men in Black at MIB. He's one of the Montauk boys. Okay, and had his hand in just about everything. And some of these movies are based off him. He says, like we talked about Harry and the Hendersons last night, y'all. So you can imagine it's always fun talking with Jimmy. He even told me that he dated a werewolf at some point. Okay. He had a girlfriend. He's told me that multiple times. He's said, I had a girlfriend who was a werewolf. And he told me what he liked most was her bushy tail. That's what he told me. But anyways, he's funny, but he's serious at the same time. And that's why I love him. And, but anyways, nonetheless, he told me some very interesting things. And before we get into what Jimmy told me, Super Saiyan Yet, what's up? Thank you so much for being here and for that super sticker. He says, hello, everyone. Hello, Miss Jessica. I just have one question. If I said that I was an alien or part dragon because of my bloodline, would you all hate me? Absolutely not. First of all, I love dragons. I love dragons.
We have think you're awesome over our bloodlines, definitely. Yeah. That's part of our, I think it's part of our makeup, but we don't control that. It's like, way beyond what we can, do in our lives. It's just like, being kin to some infamous person or something, you can't help that.
Yes. No, I question if I'm an alien sometimes too. So, okay. I think a lot of us might be aliens actually, especially people that watch my shows. We also have some werewolves in the chat today as well. I see y'all. Welcome in. Okay. So we are an all-inclusive crowd over here. We are. Okay. Everybody. And, man, if you're a dragon, I'm excited. Now we got dragons too. Okay. In the chat. But yes, like I said, I question if I'm an alien myself sometimes. So anyways, let's get back to this. Okay. So some of the things that, thank you again, Super Saiyan Yet. I appreciate you. Okay. So something that Jimmy was telling me last night and what he told all of us was that, he was talking about, okay. He was best friends with Phil Schneider. Okay. Dennis, you know who Phil Schneider was. He was a whistleblower who blew the whistle on Dulce base in the alien war down there. And he truly was good friends with Phil. And before Phil passed away, of course. And he talked about, the reptilian race actually kind of harvesting humans is what he talked about. Now, this was probably the negative side of the reptilian race. Okay. Like maybe there's dark and light. I mean, just like humans are good and bad and dark and light too, right? But he talked about how they actually harvest humans for, we're just going to call it the chrome. Okay, let's call it the chrome today. I was trying to think of a good way to go about this. I'm going to call it the chrome, like Chromebook, like we got Chromebooks and stuff with Google.
The red gravy.
The red stuff, the red chrome. And but he was really vocal about that. And so that's kind of where Jimmy's picked up, talking about this and kind of warning people a little bit about how, some of let's say reptilian race is harvesting humans. And we've heard about that too from some of the super soldiers that have been on my show. Like Daryl James has talked about being in some of these underground facilities and some of these, let's say, children being fed to some of these beings down there. Okay. So I've heard it from multiple people who have been in programs and been in some of these underground and even off-planet facilities and facilities all over the country. So it's a thing, y'all. In case you've not watched any of my shows, you didn't know this. We've established this is a thing, and And it's tragic. It's very tragic. And in one of my soapboxes is, trying to figure out where all these missing people are going, Dennis. And I think this could attribute to some of that with some of these missing people. All right. Well, he said that what Jimmy told me was that actually to protect from some of the reptilians, Bigfoots have been put here, or they are used. They are, what do you call it? I guess they are utilized is a good word. They're utilized to take out reptilians, if you know what I mean. And he got in this conversation with us last night about that, and said that that Bigfoot should be protected at all costs. And this is what Jimmy said: they should be protected at all costs. Never hurt any of the Bigfoots because they are here to protect humanity from that faction. Is what he told us last night. So I wanted to actually share that with the audience today. Now, I don't know how y'all feel about that. I think that it's really interesting, and it's food for thought, as Barry says. When I asked about werewolves in Dogman, he did say that where it would take 2 werewolves to take out 1 reptilian, whereas it takes 1 Bigfoot to do the job, is what he said. And then we're talking about the bad factions, y'all. Okay, the bad ones, the ones that are here to hurt and to eat people and stuff. That's what he told me. So I just thought that was really interesting. What do you think about that, Dennis?
Yeah, I think so. When it comes to the reptilians, definitely without doubt, they're interested in the red stuff. But they also, I think, consume human flesh too, to a certain extent, in some instances. And all of this ties in definitely to cults, that we've talked about before, witchcraft and devil worshipping and vampire cults. All of this stuff is connected, and I think the reptilians are deep into that stuff too, by the way, without a doubt. I think they have a big hold on that, and they may be initiating a lot of that as cover up for other things that they're doing. And here's another thing, definitely, I feel like to a certain extent they are waging war against us. I call it a quiet, silent war, but it is a
Yes.
war nevertheless. And I think they're taking a lot of these missing people are being off planeted. In other words, they're being taken off planet for certain reasons, for either slave labor, food, whatever the situation may be. I think a lot of people may be going that way through the portals to off planet sites, to bases that these guys have. And I think they're not just infesting this world, but other worlds as well, without a doubt. I think the reptilian influence spreads throughout this galaxy, without a doubt. In my book, it does. And so I'm not surprised by any of this, but I believe they are actually waging a silent war against humanity in that respect. And they are doing other things to manipulate us. But I think we're also looked upon as a source of food, slave labor, and the red stuff. Definitely they like. That doesn't surprise me a bit. And as for Bigfoot and werewolves and Dogman, actually, I can see Bigfoot especially as being somewhat of a natural guardian for nature. And I'm going to tell you something about the reptilians. Although they are part of the nature of this planet, the reptilians we're talking about are a higher form of reptiles than just snakes and lizards and stuff like that, and even dinosaurs. These guys are a higher form. They're on a higher level. The draconians, or whatever name you want to give them, are definitely very sinister in their output and their definite way they're doing it. So I can see our nature not really cooperating and rebelling against their type of nature. And I think their nature is really interdimensional in many ways. It's coming from outside this planet. And I'm going to tell you something about this planet, Justin, and we need to think about this. Planet Earth that you and I are part of. And you and I are part of Earth. We're made from the Earth, to the Earth we go back to. Earth is our mother. We got to always remember that. We are part of it. These guys are not. And the Earth is very much like your body. If they implant something in your body immediately begins to do what? It starts trying to, reject it. And I think Earth itself rejects some of these things, especially the natural part of Earth. And it would definitely, I can see it rejecting the reptilians without doubt.
Oh, yes, for sure. Well, okay, Scott has an interesting stat here. It says 200,000 children go missing every year in the United States. Where do they go? Rarely the remains are found of any. Oh, gosh, I wasn't planning on bringing this up today, but that is a horrible statistic, but it may be even more than that, Scott. And we have so many people. I think it's like 500,000 people go missing every year, or it's maybe more than that, just in the United States. That's adults and kids. I think it's more. But where are they going? And the first thing I woke up to this morning, thank you, Dan Guest. I saw your IG post. That was the first, when I opened up my phone, I opened up Instagram, and it was that, oh God, I think it was your post, and it was like about a girl. What was it? Oh, it was the, oh God, I can't say the name, but it's an alleged video that's going around the dark web of a high-level political figure, let's just say abusing and unaliving a person. Okay. And I saw that, and I was like, oh God, this is how my day's starting off. Thanks, Dan. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But it was horrible. Okay. And then after that, I was seeing all these other articles today, Dennis, leading up to the show today, about people, whistleblowers coming out saying, well, my family owned a juice farm, and, and they would joke around about juicing the grapefruits, but it was really, they were taking the remains of children and juicing, getting rid of their bodies and stuff. And I was like, well, people are actually doing all this? And like, maybe this is where all these missing children are going. It's just really disturbing to talk about this, but like, who is doing this? These are not normal humans. Oh my God, I almost choked on myself there. These are not normal humans doing this, right?
And children, unfortunately, Jessica, are the perfect victim. They're especially the blood, that we talked about, the rest of it. They love that, because the younger it is, the more fear it has in it, the more, the chrome that we're talking about has. They love that. And of course, the child, and I was reading about this the other day, even in the Russian-Ukrainian war that's going on right now. Russia is kidnapping tons of kids out of Ukraine. Why are they doing that? Why are they taking just children, because they're the perfect. And here's the thing about children: you can manipulate them much better and easier. You can mold them to what you want them to be, whether they be slave labor, whether they be food for you, or sustenance. And you got to look at the reptilians. And this is one thing I don't like about the reptilians. So there's a long list of things that I don't like about them in certain ways. But this is one thing. They are almost like parasites living off of humanity. Yeah. In so many instances. And that's what a lot of these pedophile predators and all this, that's what they are. They are actually parasites living off of children and stuff like that. That's never good. Parasites are just not good, whether it's a tick or a mosquito or a human parasite.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget the loosh. Okay, can't forget the loosh. There's also loosh that's being harvested as well off of humans. And yes, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let me reiterate. Thank you, Maureen, so much. And thank you, Shanti. Shanti's in the chat today. She became a member of the Hunt Club. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that so much. Also, I want to say real quick, thank you to Kent, too. He said, this is why I love Negomok. I can't see that. I'm sorry. But they eat the reptilians. Let's see how they like it. Oh, my goodness, Kent. Oh, my goodness. Well, there are lines of defenses, apparently. Okay, there's lines of defense against the bad things that want to eat humans, I guess. So that is interesting. Thank you so much for your support, Kent. I do appreciate it. Well, I figured let's go back to Mesoamerica, Dennis, because I wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit, because something that Jimmy told me last night, he was talking about the Mayans. And he said there's actually a class of like Mayan reptilians is what he was telling me. And I got into this conversation about identifying reptilian people, reptilian humanoids who are in human form, but they're actually reptilian or a reptilian lineage, or they are shapeshifters. And he told me, he said, one of the best ways to tell from the Mayans, he said, and this is what Jimmy said, y'all, okay, was that actually between the years of 1 and 2 years of age, or 0, he said 1 to 2, on their backside, they end up getting 1 to 3 circles, blue circles on their butt cheek, he said, and that's how you could tell. And so I just thought that was interesting because three circles. You and I were talking about before the show about the triangles and the three dots. Three dots. Actually, you can get three dots on a tattoo right here, and it's like it's gangster. Okay, I don't exactly know what it means. It's like crazy life or something. I don't know, but it it's kind of a universal symbol, isn't it? For something. Did you hear me, Dennis? Dennis, you there? Uh-oh. I think Dennis might be frozen, y'all. I hope it's not me. Dennis? Can you hear me?
Okay, I hear you. Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Okay, I hear you.
You're frozen. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to mention about it's kind of freezing up a little. I don't know what's going on.
He froze. Okay.
Anyway, yeah, the three dots thing, it was interesting because a lot of abductees claim to have this kind of a mark on them when they come back from being abducted. You also have this as a part of witchcraft ceremonies as well. The triangle, of course, two triangles make a star and all that. Triangles are big in witchcraft symbolism and all that. So a lot of this stuff is, like we said earlier, is connected in so many different ways. It's mind-boggling sometimes. But and here's the interesting thing: that number 3 comes up a lot, 333, and it comes up in three sequences. It comes up in 3, 6, and 9. This is a mathematical thing that shows up in a lot of nature, throughout nature, definitely.
Oh yeah, it does, and for there to be those three dots on the butt. He said they're blue. And immediately when he said that, I don't know if there's any sort of connection here, but in my mind, I remembered and I was seeing my Cabbage Patch dolls. Okay, this is going to be weird, y'all. Okay, Dennis, this is really weird. When I was a kid, I had a lot of Cabbage Patch kids. And Brown Dwarf's in the chat, or Bigfoot Dwarf is here. He and I did that. We did a show a while back on the Cabbage Patch and the incubator babies and the orphan trains, and that being possibly like a reset, the result of a human reset and a repopulation method, kind of where they were potentially cloning humans and dispersing them throughout the country, throughout the world. And so it's almost like one of those things they put in your face, right? Like we have Babyland General here in Georgia, up in North Georgia and Cleveland, Georgia. There's a big plantation house on a plantation, okay, with like fields of crops. I don't even know what they're growing, probably cotton, okay? It's probably what it is. And this big plantation looking home. And that's Babyland General, where they create all these Cabbage Patch kids. And these are the dolls that I'm talking about, y'all. And if you look into the story behind the Cabbage Patch dolls, it's quite sinister because they're actually growing these children to be slaves and to work on in their farms and in their crops and their fields. Well, on each of their butt cheeks, Dennis, there is a blue signature that says Xavier Roberts on all their butt cheeks. Okay. And the fact that I really don't know if there's a connection, but in my mind, there was a connection, and it might be reaching, but they had blue signatures on their butt cheeks. Okay.
It is a well-known fact that when you use dolls in certain magical ways, I'm not going to say just voodoo dolls, but other ways it's spelled too. Supposedly you can put souls inside of dolls and stuff like that. I won't go into that day. That's another show for another time. But the interesting thing is when you do this, Jessica, you have to mark those dolls, whether it be a voodoo doll or whatever kind of thing. You're using marks. Marks are definitely a symbolic thing, and they're part of witchcraft and black magic and stuff like that, definitely. And so that is a disturbing connection as well.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, it's just symbolic, though, right? It's like, why would there be a blue signature on the butt cheeks? I don't know. Maybe they were a black signature on some of them, but I remember mine being blue. Okay. My Xavier Roberts signatures were blue on the butt cheek. So anyways, it's just odd. It's just really odd. There's that connection. Okay. Well, okay. So he was talking about the Mayans and Mesoamerica. Well, let's take a look real quick, because I had actually I did some AI artwork this morning, and And I was putting in, okay, so this is supposed to be a reptilian down in like Mayan or Aztec type of a situation there with a pyramid in the background. And by the way, I don't know if the audience is familiar with this or knows this, but they say, I don't know who took the survey, but 12 million Americans at least believe our country in the United States is run by extraterrestrial reptilian overlords. Dennis, is that wild or what? I think it's more than that. Um, but
That
nonetheless,
would not surprise me. That would not surprise me a bit, because the Mayans and the Aztecs had a big thing for reptilians. Absolutely, their gods were represented as being reptilian. A lot of their imagery is reptilian. When you go back and look
hmm
at some of their temples and all this other stuff, I have studied the Mayan and the Aztecs a lot. Fascinating civilization, by the way, and they are definitely deep into the reptilian, draconian, dinosaur-looking type things. Absolutely, that doesn't surprise me a bit.
no, not at all. Is it? How do you pronounce it? Is it Quetzalcoatl? Is that how you pronounce that name? Um, that's one of their deities, and that's actually represented as a
Mhm,
feathered serpent. Now, this right here is actually the vision serpent, is what they call this, and I do believe this was Mayan.
mhm.
It says that the vision serpent is an important creature in pre-Columbian Maya mythology, although the term itself is now becoming kind of outdated. The serpent was so important in social and religious symbols. It was revered by the Maya, and it describes serpents as being the vehicles by which celestial bodies, such as the sun and the stars, cross the heavens. The shedding of their skin made them a symbol of rebirth and renewal, just like snakes. Um, but this was a big symbol in Mesoamerican culture. Okay. And we're talking about Mayans, Aztecs. I don't know, is that the Incas too? But super, super interesting nonetheless. And from what Jimmy was telling me last night, there's a lot of reptilians actually, straight like the pictures that I showed that are on the thumbnail, um, actual reptilians that lived down there. So I just thought that was super, super duper interesting. And the fact that they have such a connection to the reptilian symbolism, I don't know, it's a big deal. Now, I'm not saying I believe that there were gigantic reptilians walking around like that, Dennis. What do you think? Do you think there could have
I
been?
mean, if any civilization on this planet had any kind of a connection with extraterrestrials, it would definitely have been either
Yeah.
Mayans or Aztecs, without a doubt.
hmm
To me, that makes perfect sense. And here's one more thing we got to understand: if these reptilians were sort of the ruling class of the Mayans and the Aztecs, they would definitely could appear human when they wanted to, and that would make them, even more venerated in some ways. It's one thing for me to come up as being a reptile and saying, you need to, let me rule over you and let me be your king. But it's another thing when I can look like you when I want to. You know,
Yeah.
we got to look at that aspect too.
It's deceptive. It's very deceptive. And wow. Okay, let me talk about the vision serpent real quick because I've got some interesting information on this too. I forgot I'd written a couple things down. It's thought to be the most important of the Maya serpents. So they had a bunch of them apparently, but it was usually bearded and had a round snout. It was depicted as having two heads, or with one, or with the spirit of God or ancestors emerging from its jaws. During Mayan bloodletting rituals. Now I wanted to get into the bloodletting rituals, Dennis, and the blood. Okay, we're going to talk about the blood again
Oh,
because this is important for reptilians, right? Because we're talking about these missing children and being fed to reptilians. Let's go back
the,
and examine this for just a second because I think this is important.
their
During my
temples,
mhm.
their
Oh, go ahead.
temples, their temples were designed to let the blood run off from the sacrifices down the steps. They were
hmm
big on sacrificial stuff, blood and hearts being cut out. I think there was one temple they dedicated one time. Listen to this. This is wild. If this is true, that they actually sacrificed around 80,000 people for that temple. I mean, come on.
Talk about a human
That's
reset.
definitely part of their
That's serious.
religion.
Well, I hope they had a fertile harvest that year because that's what they were probably going for. That's wild. That is
Mhm.
really wild. Okay, well, God rest their souls. Okay, so During Maya bloodletting rituals, participants would experience visions in which they communicated with the ancestors or gods. These visions took the form of a giant serpent, which served as a gateway to the spirit realm. The ancestors or god who was being contacted was depicted as emerging from the serpent's mouth. The vision serpent thus came to be the method in which ancestors or gods manifested themselves into the Maya. Thus, for them, the vision serpent was a direct link between the spirit realm and the gods and the physical world. Now, these bloodletting rituals were pretty barbaric, okay, to say the least. And that's what you were talking about. I mean, that's tens of thousands of people, being sacrificed on the steps of these pyramids. Okay, is what they were doing right there on the steps at the top of them at the pinnacles.
I'll tell you something very strange that happened right quick, Jessica. And this happened with my friend Barry Fitzgerald. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He had the Ghost Hunters International thing, and they actually did a show one time in a Mayan temple. And they were trying to connect with some of the spirits that were there. And one of the spirits wanted one of the ghost hunters to cut themselves as part of a contact thing. And of course, there was a big controversy over that. Not to actually do
Blood
that.
ritual.
On
Yeah.
live television, actually cut yourself. But that doesn't surprise me because that was a big, big part of their religious aspect. That blood.
Mm-mm. Well, that is interesting. That's one way to stir things up. It's definitely one way to stir things up. Now, when I say that the bloodletting rituals were barbaric, okay, they talk about how they were actually that they not only, I don't know if they were drinking the blood or when the people they didn't always unalive the people who were doing the blood rituals. Sometimes they would actually, with some of the women, I was reading about some of the women, they would often stab their tongues. Okay, there's people I know. I'm not going to say I ever did, but there are people I know who still do like have tongue rings and things like that and pierce their tongues. I wonder if that has anything to do with some of these rituals from back then, putting a piece of metal through your tongue, because they talked about sticking barbed stick into their mouths to make their tongues bleed and their genitals.
Thing you hit on there, Jessica. That definitely, this piercing stuff is
Mhm.
part of a big ritualistic thing that not only goes on in African magic, but other as well. It is found out through other parts of the world too. And yeah, you are definitely right about that. It is and that's why I don't like to see people carry this to extremes, because
Yeah.
it is a ritualistic thing that they're actually participating, whether they know it or not. They are participating in that.
Well, yes. Listen, when I was in college, I got some weird stuff done myself. Okay, but I grew out of that phase. I grew out of it. Okay, but nonetheless, they would often, they said they would cut their tongues usually and their genitals. All right, and it's usually the male parts, to make them bleed. And they have actual ceremonial bowls and knives and everything to cut precisely. And these people would not die from from these cuts, but they would bleed out quite a bit. Okay, and y'all know how much your tongue. Have y'all ever cut? I've cut my tongue. I bit my tongue before, and it bleeds a good bit. It also heals fast, so maybe that's why they did that with the tongue, because your mouth heals quicker than most parts of your body. Okay,
Here's
so
something interesting. Let me throw
Mhm.
something interesting at you right quick. I was just thinking about that while you said it. I
Yeah.
don't mean to interrupt you, but I just happened to think about part of the Jewish tradition. Okay.
Mhm.
And when you prepare meat, it
Yes.
absolutely does not need to have any kind of blood on it. When you consume this meat, it is a big, big no-no not to have blood on it.
Really?
You're not supposed to participate in taking of blood in any form that way. And so I have to wonder why God was so specific against doing that, because there has to be some kind of addictive nature to this, Jessica, definitely. And I think it
Mhm.
is a very dark initiative thing. It is a very dark addiction to it.
Well,
Absolutely.
I think it's fitting that we're talking about this today, because there is information coming out that's been out in the media. I think it's more becoming mainstream now, with people who were on that certain flight log, if y'all know what I'm talking about, and people who have, and even that video that I woke up. I didn't wake up to the video, but that thing about the little child being unalived by a high level political figure. This is all alleged. Okay, it's all alleged. I don't know if it's real or not. But hearing about the child sacrifices that happen to this day. Okay, to this day, a lot of children that are going missing. We hear stories about the Chrome that we talked about earlier, the Google Chrome. Let's call it that. Okay, the Google Chrome, and there was a time where it appeared that I don't know if y'all follow all this stuff, but there's a time where some of these celebrities looked like they were walking around with ankle monitors, and their skin was getting all pale, and they looked like they were turning like vampires withering away. And people were saying, well, they weren't getting their doses of the Google Chrome. Okay. And it's not funny. It's horrible, but that's just what it was, and so that was just the rumor going around that a lot of these celebrities and high A-list celebrities and politicians and stuff were drinking that. Okay. And
when you look at the consumption of blood, okay, it's to retain your youth. It is to prolong your life.
Yeah.
It is addictive in the way that you take this. It also appeals to the dark side of the human nature, especially forget about reptilians for a minute. Look at the dark side of humans. Okay, we're bad enough without. We don't need reptilians. We can take their place anytime we want in that respect. But absolutely, you can see where this is all going.
Mm-hmm.
And the pointers, the clues that it's pointing to. There's definitely a lot of connections in this.
There is. Okay. Well, so what I was about to connect here. Let's connect the dots. Okay, because they say, like, people were like, why would anybody do that? Why would anybody drink that stuff? Why would anybody use it as a drug? Okay. We actually saw that in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, that the character that Johnny Depp played, they actually had a vial of the Google Chrome. Okay. And they had a vial of it, and he was taking it, and it was making him hallucinate, and it got him really high. And so going back to the Mayan and the Aztec, the Mesoamerican the blood rituals, the bloodlettings, they did that because it got them high. Okay. And hallucinated, and they connected with the gods, right? They connected with their God. I mean, I'm not saying, it's been passed down for that long, but it sounds like it has. Okay. And I'm not saying that all the Mayans and Aztecs were reptilians. I'm not saying that either. But let's look at the history of it, because they're doing today the same things allegedly that they were doing back in Mesoamerica.
I think it was Aleister Crowley that said, if you take the drugs out of witchcraft, you don't have witchcraft.
Ooh, really? Oh my gosh. Well, there's that. There's definitely that too. I have not heard that before, but that actually makes some sense there. And yeah, Robin says sacrifices focus on the heart. Wow. Yes. So
yeah, the Aztecs and the Mayan really focused on the heart, because it's a blood pump. That's basically what it is. And
sure.
that's what we're going
life force, right?
A lot of other cultures focus on the liver, but that's another story. But anyway, these both things are connected to the blood system of the human body.
Well, okay. Well, there's a lot of blood connections, and you and I have talked a good bit about the blood, and how the blood. And I think it was Dan or somebody in the chat had written that blood sacrifice, okay, and things like that. It opens portals, and your heart's a portal too, Dennis. Right? They say it is. And but just imagine all of that blood. I think that when they go to a place of power, which yes, they do sit on ley lines too, right? A lot of these pyramids, they're placed where they're placed for a reason, I would assume. And being on these energetic ley lines, they're there to manifest and unaliving 80 people. Do you think that was like in a week, a day? Like how do they do that? Do that? Was that one ceremony? Was it in 2 days? That's a lot of people. Imagine.
Rituals are geared to a balance, Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going to be balanced. You got to have the right drugs. You got to have the right compounds of these things. You got to have the blood. You got to have the stars. Are going to be right. All these things are part of the ritual that you do. And to accomplish these things, and the place that you do it in is important. The way that you do it is important. And that's the way, and the blood is important. The list goes on and on. You got to have a balance for all this stuff if you want your rituals to work out right, and you want that power that you want to tap into, or whatever it is you're out to get. You got to have it, everything balanced correctly.
Oh yeah. Ooh, there's some tough little bits of wisdom here in the chat today. Hey, Urso. Urso says the self-mutilation was also added by sliding slivers of quartz crystals under their skin. Oh, that would suck, kind of. I don't know, but I mean, was that for body modification maybe too, though? I don't know. Some of the things that people do to their bodies today, Dennis, for body modification,
And
it scares me. It scares me a little bit.
Body modification, what? Is connected with pain. Pain is a big thing in this ritualistic stuff. Yeah. Pain and even torture to a certain extent. The output of emotion from pain and torture is a big part of this ritual.
It is. It is. The torture actually, okay, so we're going to talk about the torture part too, because that is how they harvest the Google Chrome. Okay, Google Chromebook. And that's how they do that. Okay, well let's I promise the audience we're going to talk about ways that we can identify reptilians. Okay, and like I said, there's good and then there's not so good. Okay, y'all, as in with every species, every race, everybody. Okay, there's the dark and then there's the light, right? And so let's just say, I mean, I might have been, I'm not going to say I was married to one. Okay, but I might have been, I don't know. I don't know. I started going through this list and I was like, man, I know a lot of people that could qualify for this. So I'm not saying this is fact. I'm saying this is just some people's opinions. Okay. And we're going to talk about it. All right. So one of the first things is that they say that reptilian people are actually very sensual. Okay. And have a big tie to their sexuality and are more prone to potentially getting a little more adventurous, let's just say. Okay. And kind of being cut off from like the, I don't want to say empathetic part or like the, oh my God, how do I even say this? Being in more of just an act instead of it being something sacred. Okay. How about that? That's a good way to say it, right? What do you think about that, Dennis? Have you heard that?
I would say sensual, definitely. And I think when you look at these things like that, they're taking things to another height of emotionality. They take it to another level, far above what usually humans do. That's another indicator of what you're dealing with is not human on that level. See what I'm saying? And they in other words, when we go low, they go high. And when we go a certain way, they go way out on it. You know what I'm saying? They don't have the boundaries that we do, it seems like. And that includes the sex or whatever it is they're doing. They don't have the natural boundaries. They don't recognize.
Okay, that does make sense. And Emilius, hello Emilius, he says they are super reproductive beings. Okay, very interesting. Okay, another thing is they're highly manipulative. Okay, highly manipulative, and I mean most influencers are, okay, like politicians and people who are, swaying the public opinion on things. Okay, and they're very manipulative. So are like narcissistic people, especially as well, are highly manipulative.
They're very good at using people.
Very dominant personalities, right? Very dominant, and it's my way or the highway. But sometimes from what I was reading, they do, and I know people like this personally. They love to come after me for some reason. I don't know why. They think that I'm a wimp or something. I'm not. Okay, and maybe I'm just bait. I always say I'm bait, right? Maybe they're supposed to come after me. Okay, but nonetheless, they are put on this earth to crush everyone around them.
Okay? Yeah, they're always testing your boundaries. They're always pushing the envelope on you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And so, yes, you never know who you're messing with, y'all. So be careful. If you're a reptilian, you're out to crush everybody. Be aware of who you're crushing. Okay. Because it may not work out well for you in the end. I'm just saying. So if you've ever met anybody who's highly manipulative and you see that their goal in life is to ruin everybody's day, they might be a reptilian. I'm just saying. Okay. Okay. So also gaslighting, Dennis. The gaslighting is another thing. They say is a characteristic of people who are reptilian, and it's people who will make you think, make you not believe your own eyes. Basically, is what that is, and they pretty much lose their power over you when they can't gaslight you anymore. And so, my goodness, y'all, if you guys are members of the Hunt Club, I do videos where I talk about spirituality and stuff. And I'm always kind of talking about my experiences with people like this. Okay. I know it's kind of, it's not repetitive because I'm always talking about different stuff, but I do kind of bring this up, and it's how to deal with it. And because I've had to deal with a lot of it in my lifetime. And so it's kind of like they are put here to stop you from learning who you are. Okay. To reaching your full potential and to understanding that we are all limitless beings. Okay. And to keep you pound you down into the ground all the time, and to make you feel bad about yourself. If you're around somebody like that, they might be a reptilian.
And that's the big thing about reptilians, Jessica. That is definitely part of their makeup. They are controlling, and that's what these people you're talking about. They're out to try to control you, to push you down where they want you, to keep that constant manipulation going on you. That's part of their nature. Definitely, these narcissistic kind of beings do that because they want that complete control over you, so they can manipulate you the way they want you. You're just something that they can use.
That's right. And when they get done using you, they discard you. Okay. And that's really how it is too with, I did that remote viewing target for Barry about the missing persons clusters all over the country. And what I was seeing was people being taken, experimented on, and then disposed of. It's almost like it's not the best way to a comparison, but it's kind of like, all right, well, they get you, they use you, and they abuse you, and then they throw you away. Okay. And
that ties directly into their dark spiritual nature.
mm-hmm.
They don't care. They have no empathy for us. They have no sympathy for you. They can't equate to your pain or your suffering. It doesn't bother them a bit. They look upon us as we would look upon roach bugs or something, something just to use or do whatever they want to get rid of. They have no feelings for us whatsoever. Therefore, they have no true human souls like you and I do.
Oh yeah, that's the next thing. They are emotionless. They have no emotions. Okay, just no emotions, and they can look you right in the face, and you can be crying, and and they can make you believe that they care, but they just don't. And it's very cold. Okay, just very cold and very calculated. And yeah,
And they always have
they'll mimic you too. So be careful.
They
Okay.
always have complete control over their emotions too.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever little emotion they have complete control over it, and it makes them not only hard but cold as well in that respect. Therefore, again, there you go. It's not like a human soul.
Yes. Well, they say that they're actually not from this planet. They're not from this dimension, and so that's why they're much like the great aliens I was discussing, where in the beginning of the show today, I was saying, well, they're perplexed by humans, right? They like to study us and watch us because we have empathy, we have love, we exude love, and so that's the same with the reptilians. Apparently, is they want to watch us and study us. They want to take what we have because they don't have it, and thus we have the loosh factories. Okay, and by loosh factories, Dennis, you know what I mean, like the football stadiums and.
That's what a lot of these things, Jessica, do. They're feeding off that negativity they're producing. That loosh, as we call it, that's what they want. That is part of their makeup. Not only they're thirsting after the blood and the flesh, but they want that negative energy that's being put forth. And when you torture people, put people in pain, and take this chrome that you want out of them, that is feeding off of the fear and the fear mongering that they're doing. They're feeding off that negativity. That's what dark beings do. This is the fuel that drives their engines.
That's right. That's right. Okay. And speaking of fuel and blood, okay, Prophet Pre says blood consumption is their fountain of youth. Yes. And yeah, it starts making me, it makes me think, we got all those pictures. I've talked about recycled celebrities, y'all. Dennis. I've talked about recycled celebrities. I love that topic. I was actually considering doing another show on that here in the next week or two. I might do it. I think I'm going to do it because there are so many pictures from the past of people who look the exact same as our celebrities do today. And it's like, well, are these vampires? Are these people? Is this all are we living in a simulation? This is like a program. We're living in a computer program, and like these are fake. I don't know what's going on.
That's what they used to say about Elizabeth Bathory, why she would bathe in blood. And the interesting thing was her punishment was they didn't execute her because she was a noble woman. They put her in a cell and locked her up in solitary confinement for the rest of her life. And here's the interesting thing. The guy that wrote about her said she was a beautiful young thing when they put her in that cell, but she seemed to age rapidly after that.
Mm-hmm. Just like those celebrities, whenever they were all wearing those ankle monitors, allegedly. This is for entertainment purposes only. I can't state that enough. But it looked as though their faces were sinking in and stuff. And it's like they needed their fix of the Google Chrome. Okay. So, okay. That is so wild. And I mean, maybe I'm reaching here, but I don't know. I'm wondering about these celebrities and seeing those pictures from a long time ago and them looking like doppelgangers of those people today. It makes you wonder, like, are they just eating eating that crumb?
You've got so many images that are connected to the past. It's almost as if, they're surviving throughout the centuries. You can find these images online for yourself. It's wild to think about that somebody you see that, the same person looks just like the same person 200 years ago. You got to wonder about that, definitely.
Oh yeah,
you like dealing with
that's right,
with somebody like Saint Germain here,
That's right. My question is: are all of these celebrities and politicians? If we say that they could be reptilian, maybe they are reptilian. They've been here since the beginning of time, and they're just changing. They're living off of that Google Chrome, as I'm calling it today. Okay, and it's keeping them young and looking, persuasive over the general public.
That's what we said earlier. It's not only giving you youth, but it's also prolonging your life. So what we're looking at here is the ability to take upon yourself immortality to a certain extent. And if you can do that, you can live for centuries, definitely.
Oh, you probably can. Yes,
and I think reptiles by nature are long-lived things. Look at some of these turtles that they still have, like 200 or 300-year-old turtles and tortoises and stuff like that. It's wild to think about.
It is. And speaking of wild, Moto Girl's in the house. What's up, Amy? She's one of the sisters that went bigfooting with me a couple weeks ago. So what's up? And that's C Duke, but I see Moto Girl in here too. So thanks. I see several people from the Georgia Bigfoot Conference in here. Thank y'all so much for being here today. Okay, so we're talking about blood. Let's talk about the blood type. So I have a lot of friends who talk about how they are Rh negative blood type. Okay, I will not disclose what my blood type is. I'm not saying it. I don't care. Nobody can get me to say it because I know there are. I mean, one of my friends who says she's actually Rh negative blood type, she has been, I'm going to say, kind of hunted down by an actual vampire before and woke up with clearly as though she had been attacked and blood had been taken from her one night.
Definitely something special about that. Absolutely. I've heard of a lot of studies that are done on the Rh negatives, especially. There's some wild stuff. And here's the weird thing about it. Some of these older bloodlines that you and I have talked about, in the world and what we talked about, mentioned very early in the beginning of this program, that they may have a reptilian tint to them, definitely. You have to wonder that a lot of these bloodlines have that Rh negative factor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, they say that a lot of the reptilian people of the Rh negative bloodline might be reptilian. Okay, then that I don't know if that's true, but that's just what the consensus was with some of these things that I was reading about. And so it's just food for thought, like I said, as Barry always says. Okay, so it's something to think about. There is something about people with Rh negative blood, I guess is what it is. Matthew Delve talks about it all the time. My buddy that goes bigfooting with us. He says he's Rh negative, but they say that they get a lot of these paranormal and supernatural occurrences that happen to them quite often.
Here's the interesting thing we need to consider. Okay, and we talked about the experimentation earlier, and a lot of this hybridization that's going on. Could it be that the factor of the reptilians engaging in all this, that they want to try to blend or make a more natural blend of reptilian and human DNA and blood and all this together so that they can become more like us in that
Hmm.
respect? That would have to be something that might be driving them on to do these things. That since they don't have the human soul like you and I talked about earlier, could
Yeah.
it be this experimentation is leading them in that direction?
Hmm. It could be. It could be. Well, I know I've got a lot of pet lovers. People, we've all got pets. Most people, not everybody, but a lot of us do have pets, or we've had pets at some point, from kitty cats to dogs. And one thing, and I was actually going to pull up a picture and I forgot to upload it. One thing about they say about reptilians is they hate cats. Man, I'm just saying that's what I was reading. They don't like cats.
Well, I'll
Okay.
tell you why that is. It definitely, without doubt. Here's my own explanation for that. Cats are very spiritual animals, and I think they're very attuned. Okay, let me say this before I've talked about this before. Dogs are your guardian, and werewolves too, maybe for that matter,
Yes,
are
werewolves
your
too.
guardians in the physical world. Okay, but cats are sort of your guardians in the spiritual world. And let me tell you this, if you run into some kind of a dark entity, it would not surprise me a bit that the cat would not pick up on that because that is part of their nature. They can pick up on these dark spiritual aspects.
Hmm. Well, the what I was thinking about when I was reading that was, well, you remember the Scape Swamp, the Lizardman of Scape Swamp. I believe around the time that that young man Christopher was accosted by that reptilian at the swamp, when he just finished. Thank goodness he had just finished changing his flat tire right there on that bridge,
Mhm.
and I believe around that area in what is it, Bishopville, I guess Bishopville, South Carolina, people were having their
Yeah,
vehicles and
Bishop
stuff were
Hill.
being vandalized. Kind of, it looked as though something had attacked somebody's, I think it was a minivan, if I'm not mistaken, Dennis. And it looked like something had I'm going to say a cat. My thought was always like a cat had run up underneath it and something attacked, like tried, tore the car apart trying to get to that cat under the hood, I think. And I was actually going to show a picture of that because I think
Yeah,
that was actually the lizard man.
I've
I
heard
think
about
it was
that.
either a lizard man or a pit bull. Okay. I'm going to say it
Maybe
was
it was
probably
wanting
lizard man.
maybe it was wanting to get rid of its natural indicator of what it was up to. Actually,
Hmm.
I've investigated Lizardman of Scape or Swamp. As a matter of fact, you can picture me on that bridge. Actually, I think I spotted the guy out in the pampas grass that was growing over there. I talked about this on Chantel's show the other day. We did an excellent show on the cryptids of South Carolina. Anyway, I think I caught a sight of him out there. But there's definitely something about definitely on the other side of that bridge. Absolutely. And it would not surprise me a bit that lizard man would go after a cat because that would probably be something that would give him away or something that would be antagonistic to it without a doubt.
Oh yeah, for sure. Scott says maybe he's reptilian. He's not a cat person. Okay. Just because you're not a cat person doesn't mean you're a reptilian. I'm just saying. Okay. We're just kind of putting this out there. Okay. One another thing, I've got like two more things we'll talk about because it is getting close to saying goodbye for the day, y'all. But this has been a fantastic show. They wear you down. Okay. They really put out a lot of negative energy. They actually feed on negative energy. So they will push your buttons to get you to feel really bad and to put negative energy out there so they can eat that. That's called the loosh. Okay. And when I say eat it, I don't mean with their mouths. I mean like they absorb your negative energy. They love it. They love it. That's why I say, please turn your TVs off. Don't be watching. And I don't mean like all your TVs all the time, just the news and stuff. The news is so, I mean, it's the programming, Dennis. It's so negative and things. When you turn on the TV, what are the first, I want to say first 5 to 10 minutes of the news are just people who've been unalived and just negative, negative, negative. It's been that way since before I was born, y'all. Every time I ever turn on the TV, they don't talk about all the good things that happen in our society. They talk about the worst things that happen in our society.
That's so right,
Okay.
Jessica. Definitely, without a doubt, if we have more light and love in us, more of the positive stuff going on. That is a natural bumper against this, and I don't think the reptilians really know how to battle that. They're looking to, for the loose. They're looking for the negative stuff. Don't cooperate with them. Don't feed the beast. And when you do that, you thwart their attempts. And I think, listen to this. I'm gonna this blow your mind when you think about it. If you've got this kind of attitude, if you've got that positive outlook, if you've got that light and love in you, that faith over fear thing going for you, that defeats the reptilians, and maybe even sometimes will defeat their shapeshifting abilities and let you see them for what they truly are sometimes, the real deal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. And you know what? Just to spread a little love and light. I appreciate that, Mari. And she gifted 5 Cryptid Huntress memberships. Y'all, I'm going to be doing a video today, and I'll get it out before tonight with the Hunt Club. I'm sorry, y'all, I've been busy the past week. Okay, but we're going to do one today. Thank you so much, Maureen. That's awesome. And congratulations to everybody who got one of those today. That is so cool. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about is they compartmentalize their social lives, and they want to keep up an illusion of who they are. Okay, and they don't really want to control the amount of information that gets out about them. They'll ask you all about your life, but they won't give you any information about theirs, because what they want to do is they want to find out everything they can about you so they can destroy you with it in the future. Ask me how I know. I've had several people do that to me, and that's why I clam up when I get around people these days. Okay. Okay. I do. Not that I have anything that would ever destroy me. Okay. But I'm just saying, they will use anything against you. And if there's a group of people and you're out in a crowd, a lot of times they don't want to get their picture made and stuff. They don't want proof that they were out and stuff like that. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it is what it is. And so just be aware. Masters of illusion.
That's the number one indicator that they watch their image very closely.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like their pictures taken. That tells you something is definitely going on with that. They used to be almost like primitive peoples who didn't want their picture taken because they thought it would capture their soul. Here's the interesting thing about that, Jessica. Sometimes these pictures and these images, even mirrors, will show the true image of what that person or thing truly really is, and not the illusion that it wants you to see. And we have to understand that what these things are doing to us is that they're creating that illusion. It's like we used to say about the fairies, the fae, they put on the glamour. And that's what this is. This is a form of glamour. They're putting forth this imagery so to fool us, to deceive us into seeing what they want us to see. This is part of their manipulation. It is a big part of their manipulation. And especially, if it's their image that you're trying to capture. I've even heard stories about reptilians, just like vampires. They don't want to be around mirrors,
Mm-hmm. Like vampires.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, you know what? It takes people who are good and healed. I don't want to say humans. I said earlier, I don't even know if I'm a fully human. I might be an alien for all I know. I don't know what's what anymore, y'all. Okay, but sometimes it takes people who are fully, I'm not saying fully healed, but living on a higher vibration to actually encounter people who are on a lower vibration, so they can be kind of a mirror to that person, spiritually speaking, okay, and energetically speaking, because they refuse to look in the mirror themselves. And sometimes they encounter people who are here placed on this earth to be a mirror for them. And they can either choose to raise their vibration, and live a happier life, or not. Okay. And it's just we're all just learning, y'all. We're all just learning, and we're all living our lives. We're all on different paths. And I think it's fantastic. I love it. I love the variety of everybody that's, oops, that's my alarm, y'all. I love the variety and the inclusiveness that we all have here. And I think it's really fun to be able to explore these topics. And I am in no way throwing shade at anyone who's a reptilian, you guys. We are just exploring this today. And everybody's beautiful in their own way. Just don't eat me. Okay? Just don't eat me. Don't eat us. Oh my gosh, Dennis, this has been so fun. I do appreciate you being here today so much, and I know you have a wonderful YouTube channel and a show tonight, and I was wondering if you have any final thoughts, and if you could tell the audience where they could find you.
Well, I think, like we said earlier, the best thing I want to imply for everybody out there listening today, keep that light, that positivity in your life. stay away from this darkness as much as possible. Stay away from the dark and the media output and all this other stuff that's wanting to take you down and give you that negative attitude. Let's be positive. Let's fill our lives with light and love and goodness. And this will be a bumper. This will thwart the reptilians, whatever they're up to, whatever their manipulation is. This is a natural bumper against them. So faith over fear definitely is going to be the biggest weapon against the darkness, especially the darkness of these entities.
That's right. That's right. I love that. Dennis, tell everybody about your YouTube channel. You guys, please go over to Hunting the Shadows on YouTube and subscribe. Dennis, tell us about your show tonight. You've got shows coming up.
Well, now last Monday night with my good friend Gerald Fountain, we had a great show, Lost Treasures on the Road Less Traveled. If you missed that, go back and check it out. It's on my Hunting the Shadows YouTube podcast channel. Tonight, I will be doing Werewolf Wednesday on Hunting the Shadows at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to tell you some stuff about the curse of the werewolf tonight, definitely that you've never heard about. And then Friday night, we'll be doing Paranormal Point of View. Thursday, I will be doing a fantastic show with Shanti on Aquarius Rising. I will be doing a chapter of my forthcoming book, Vampires I Have Known. And that will be the show Thursday. And so check us out. And also my books are available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. And you can reach me anytime at DennisWCarroll.com.
Oh, yeah, that is wonderful. Thank you so much, Dennis. Yeah, please go show your support for Dennis, everybody, and go to purchase his books, DennisWCarroll.com, and over on his YouTube channel and his Patreon, too. Y'all become members of the Patreon as well. Gosh, this has been such a great show today. And speaking of Shanti, I did a show with her yesterday. We discussed the Green Children of Woolpit on her channel yesterday, and she has such a cool outlook on that, and we took it all from a different angle yesterday than we did when I did it on my show. And so if you guys missed that, go over to Aquarius Rising Africa for that. That was really cool. And so yes, I'll be in your chat tonight, Dennis. I would not miss it for anything. And
look forward to it.
Of course. Well, everybody, I hope everybody learned a little something today, and at least y'all had fun. I hope we entertained you at the very least today. I thought it was kind of I entertained myself, and I guess that's what matters. But nonetheless, I want to thank everybody for all the love and support today. Andrew, thank you for that super sticker. Super Cyan, thank you so much for that super sticker. And Kent, thank you for that as well. And also Shanti, thank you for becoming a member of the Hunt Club, and for Maureen giving 5 gifts today. That was really special, and I do appreciate all of y'all. Okay, well, y'all please come back and see me tomorrow night. I'll be back at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, with a remote viewing show for you guys. I will be announcing that topic either tonight or first thing in the morning before the show. And if you'd like to get access to the remote viewing data for whatever we go over tomorrow, it'll be on my Patreon. Okay, so you guys, please be safe out there. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious of everybody you meet. I don't know. I am sometimes, but it's all love here. Just stay in the light, y'all. Stay in love, and take care of yourselves. Keep your head on a swivel, but don't live in fear. We're here to have a good time. We're here for a good time, not a long time, y'all. Okay. I will see you guys back here tomorrow night. Everybody have a great day, and yeah, stay safe out there. No fear, y'all. Thank you, Dennis. We'll see you tonight.